Welcome to our channel. Let's begin the journey.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking way past the usual sci-fi tropes of nuclear energy to understand the actual, real-world physics and mathematics of how a reactor is safely controlled. We're going to break down the exact math that makes harnessing the power of the atom possible. Because, when you're dealing with temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun and just immense nuclear forces, guesswork literally isn't an option. So if you've ever wondered what's truly happening inside the control room of a power plant, you are in the exact right place.
So how exactly do you control an atomic chain reaction? Well, we're going to tackle this high-stakes question by diving deep into the mathematics of reactor kinetics. You see, it's not just about starting the atomic fire. It is fundamentally about how we keep a plant from spiraling completely out of control the exact second we turned it on. We're dealing with incredible invisible forces here, and precise mathematical modeling is our one and only safety net.
Just to ground the sheer abstract scale of what we're dealing with, remember that every single fission event, literally just one single atom of uranium-235 splitting apart, releases an immense 200 million electron volts of energy. And because multiple neutrons are released in every single split, we aren't just looking at a linear, predictable increase. No, this power can multiply exponentially in fractions of a microsecond.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with fission and the chain reaction, then understanding reactor transients, followed by the reactor period. After that, we'll cover the prompt jump, the prompt drop, and finally, controlling the criticality.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, fission and the chain reaction. Okay, so the crucial starting point here is that every single split atom yields about 2.5 fast neutrons on average. To actually sustain a reaction, we use moderators, primarily water, to slow these incredibly fast-moving particles down into usable thermal neutrons. But at the very same time, we have to insert control rods made of highly absorptive materials. We use elements like cadmium and boron specifically because they possess an exceptionally high neutron absorption cross-section. They basically act like massive sponges to soak up the excess neutrons before the exponential chain reaction runs completely away from us. It is a constant, delicate balancing act.
Moving on to Section 2, understanding reactor transients. But what happens to our math when power levels undergo sudden, rapid changes, say a loss of coolant or an accidental rod ejection? If a rapid change occurs, standard steady-state temperatures simply can't be used to predict the reactor's behavior. Steady-state math goes right out the window. Instead, we have to rely on kinetic relation models to map out what we call reactor transients. These transients represent the highly dynamic, non-equilibrium states of power shifts over time. When conditions suddenly change from the baseline, these terrifyingly beautiful reactor dynamics equations are quite literally our only blueprint for understanding what happens next.
Next up, Section 3, the reactor period explained.
Mastering the timing of these transient reactions is the absolute key to control. To do that, we really have to differentiate between prompt neutrons and delayed neutrons. Prompt neutrons are born almost instantly after an atom splits. We're talking fractions of a millisecond. Delayed neutrons, however, take anywhere from fractions of a second up to 25 seconds to appear from the decay of fission fragments. And it is this incredibly slight delay that gives human operators the crucial window of time to react. I mean, without the existence of delayed neutrons, we could never safely operate a nuclear reactor.
So how do we measure this critical window of control? We use the reactor period, which you'll often see denoted by the Greek letter tau. This is the exact amount of time it takes for a reactor's power level to change by a factor of E, which is about 2.718. Engineers map this vital relationship out using the in-hour equation, the foundational formula that directly links the amount of reactivity inserted into the core to the resulting reactor period. A long reactor period means highly manageable power changes. For example, a period of 143 seconds just means the power increases by a very gentle 0.7% in a single second.
Which brings us to Section 4, the prompt jump, specifically the positive side.
Let's see how this kinetic behavior plays out when we intentionally push the reactor power up. What's really fascinating here is the pacing. When an operator executes a positive step insertion, meaning they slightly pull a control rod out, power shoots up incredibly fast in an immediate vertical spike. In the control room, this is known as the prompt jump. But right after that, the spike visibly rounds off into a steady, manageable climb. That slower slope takes over precisely because those rapid prompt neutrons have done their job, and the reactor is now waiting on the slower, delayed neutrons to sustain the next generation of the chain reaction.
Now for the flip side, Section 5, the prompt drop.
So we also need to know exactly what the math looks like when we insert negative reactivity to slam on the brakes. When an operator executes a negative step insertion, like dropping a control rod slightly further into the core, reactor power drops almost instantaneously by about 33%. This instant freefall is the prompt drop. But notice, power doesn't immediately go to absolute zero. Instead, it's followed by a long, slow decay curve as those lingering delayed neutrons finally run out of steam, slowly lowering the power output over time.
Finally, Section 6, controlling the criticality.
Let's tie the whole shebang back to the actual physical levers inside the facility. Physically pulling the control rods up sparks that exponential prompt jump in power, followed by a steady rise governed by the delayed neutrons. Pushing those exact same rods down immediately triggers our stabilizing negative prompt drop, safely stepping the power down to a lower, flat baseline. Every single physical motion the operator makes in the control room directly manipulates these exponential curves.
Now, there is a very real, very dangerous mathematical boundary we absolutely have to respect, and that is prompt criticality. This terrifying state occurs when the positive reactivity introduced into the system is equal to or greater than the delayed neutron fraction, which we denote with the Greek letter beta. Beta is incredibly small, often less than 1% of all the neutrons produced. But if your positive reactivity exceeds that tiny fraction, the reaction sustains itself purely on instant, prompt neutrons alone. The reactor period shrinks to milliseconds, and you completely bypass that safe, delayed neutron time buffer we rely on.
So I want to leave you with this to chew on, a really provocative thought about the razor-thin margins of nuclear safety. We've seen how elegant the mathematics of reactor kinetics can be, but what happens when a system reaches prompt criticality and moves faster than human perception? Those very same equations predict catastrophic, unmanageable power surges. Understanding these exact formulas isn't just a purely academic exercise. It is quite literally the only thing keeping the beast truly tamed. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the physics that power our world.
The view from here is breathtaking. Command, we are in position and ready for the next phase. If you liked the video, subscribe and comment the topic you want next. Thanks for watching, and stay unstoppable.